That brings us to 2:14 p.m. here on Jones in the afternoon. A very out of the ordinary edition of today's show. We got some special guests in the studio. He's not on camera, y'all can't see him, but Master Sergeant William Murray is in here from the Air National Guard. But on camera, sitting right across from me in the studio, is Master Sergeant Lark Dahl, and she is the Air Force Reserve recruiter for. I was trying to, prop it up and say USAFE, but she corrected me, and the actual bases are.
I cover Aviano, Incirlik, and Lodges Field.
I know that two of the three. Lodgefield is
In Portugal, Azores?
Portugal. There we go.
Yes.
On the coast, and yeah. So you're here today to talk about the Air Force Reserve and the Air National Guard program.
Yes, correct. I'm here to talk about the Palace Chase and the Palace Front program, people that are facing the ERB boards, see what their options are. This is for people that are thinking about separating the Air Force and give them their options, see where they can go with their careers, what their benefits would be if they left.
Just who are possibly facing that situation, that circumstance.
Correct, or people that have, coming at the end of their enlistment and decided, you know what, right now I love the Air Force, but maybe it's time for me to go back to college, or maybe it's time to devote more time to my family. People are always on kind of that cusp. We come in the Air Force, you can't stay in for a lifetime. We're coming in to get out at some point. So it's just to give them options. It's not to tell people, rush out and join the Air Force Reserve or the Air National Guard. But hey, these are some options for you. Let me educate you on what benefits could be if this decides to become your choice.
And speaking of such, I heard you mention the term Palace Chase. What is Palace Chase? What's that mean?
Palace Chase is an active duty run program actually, and the Air Force Reserve and the Air National Guard facilitate it. What this means is if you have 4 years on your enlistment and you decide, during that 4 years, I think I like the Air Force, but I think I just want to do it part-time. You're asking active duty to release you from that contract and to serve out the rest of your contract in either the Air Force Reserve or the Air National Guard.
Oh wow! And is that a pretty easy program as far as is it complex to navigate through or?
Well, no, it's not complex to navigate through. Obviously, you need to speak with the recruiter. You have to meet the basic requirements, passing PT tests, good EPRs, not being in any trouble, and if your career field's overmanned. Active duty looks at the career field not just here at Incirlik, but they look at it nationwide. Is your career field overmanned? Could we afford to lose you? In this climate, with people, we're putting people out right now, or asking people to voluntarily separate, Palace Chase program is pretty popular. And more people are able to decide, hey, maybe this is my time, go for the Air Force Reserve or join the Air National Guard.
And speaking of involuntary separation, which, unfortunately a lot of people are facing right now, so let's say, someone's like, all right, I see my options here, I've got the Air National Guard or the Air Force Reserve, but they want to know right off the bat if there's anything that could disqualify them immediately. What would those type of things be? Currently
being on a UIF or control roster, having received an Article 15 in the last 2 years, repeated no passing PT fit score tests, currently on a profile, so you can't complete the run or can't complete the sit-ups or push-ups. You have to be off that and have a current PT test, 2 EPRs, anything within that measure that would allow the Air Force right now to say maybe you're not qualified to be in the Air Force. They're going to offer you the option, they're giving you the option, or they're putting you out to leave. The Air Force Reserve or the Air National Guard cannot take you at that point in time. So if you're not able to re-enlist in the Air Force, you wouldn't be able to enlist into the Air Force Reserve or the Air National Guard.
That makes sense. It's the same kind of disqualification that would apply to that situation, just re-enlisting.
Correct, but there's some that change. People that decide not to go to, say, an academy, and they decide not to PCS or do a TDY. Sometimes the Air Force says, you know what, maybe this isn't for you anymore. But situations like that, they can join the Air Force Reserve or the Air National Guard. Because for us, they're serving locally. We're not asking you to leave. Instead of having to PCS constantly, we offer you the option to stay locally and to serve at home.
That actually leads me to my next question. We're going to have a song break and then come back into the interview. You're in the Air Force Reserve.
That is correct, I am.
Just straightforward question. What do you think about it? Do you enjoy your service in the Air Force Reserve?
I love my service in the Air Force Reserve. I loved active duty when I was on it, and I got out, and I was a traditional reservist, and I served 6 years just being a 1 weekend a month, a weekend warrior, and then now I'm an AGR, which means I'm active duty for the reserve. So my benefits are exactly the same. I have the best of both worlds.
That's awesome, and I mean, people are probably thinking you might be stateside bound or whatever, but as you were just telling me, you're based in Aviano.
I am based in Aviano, absolutely, and Sergeant Murray that's here that's not speaking is based at Ramstein.
Oh.
So we're all very fortunate. Like I said, I have the best of both worlds. I've been able to live the active duty world, and I've been able to live just the traditional reserve world, and now I get to combine the two. And I'm a reservist, but I can retire at my 20 good active duty years and collect my paycheck just like anybody else in active duty now.
Man, so long story short, definitely enjoying it.
You know, it's not for everybody, but I would say that if you're on that fence and you're not deciding what to do, get the education and make the best decision for you and your family.
Sounds good. We're going to get right back to the interview, everybody. Sergeant Dahl's hooking us up with some awesome information. Right now, Christina Aguilera and Blake, just a fool, but we're going to get right back into this. It's Jones in the afternoon. In the afternoon, still got Master Sergeant Dahl and Sergeant Murray over there. He's running help side offense in the background, but he's definitely in here. They're both in the studio talking about we're talking about the National Guard, Air National Guard, and also the Air Force Reserve. And Sergeant Dahl is about to tell me about, or all of us, about the Palace Front program.
Palace Front program basically is if you know you have a date of separation and you're not going to re-enlist, within 6 months of that separation, come see your Air Force Reserve or Air National Guard recruiter so we can lay down and look at your options. So if you know you're going back home to Texas, where you're from there, Airman Jones, come over there. We can show you exactly where you can serve in Texas. We can give you all of your benefits. We can show you, exactly what will work for you. We have different kinds of programs for the Palace Front program. We have the traditional program, which is your weekend warrior, your 1 weekend a month, your 2 weeks out of the year. The Reserve specifically has the IMA program. What that is you serve all of your 39 days at once if you choose to with an active duty program anywhere you would like, if it's available. So if you live in California, you can serve in Hawaii. If you live in Colorado, you can serve in North Carolina. We have positions over in USAFE, and we also have positions in PACAV.
So you can just, that's pretty awesome. Right within, you're retiring, and maybe, I guess my next question would be, have you seen that happen, and when would that be useful or something that you wanted to do? Well,
for example, there's a lot of spouses that, say people security force. Security force is a great example. It's a large career field, second large career field, or first large career field in the Air Force.
Right.
So people are getting off active duty. Maybe they're mill to mill. One spouse is moving and one's deciding, you know what, I've served 8 years in the Air Force. Maybe it's time for me to do something else. I want to go to college full time, maybe be a nurse. So they get stationed at Lackland. The other person, they're like, well, Lackland's great. I want to be an IMA. There's a great position, possibly an extra stripe in there for me, but the position may be in Colorado. And I can do all my days at once. I don't have to miss out on college. I can do it during my summer months. So they'll go do their 39 days in Colorado. The Air Force Reserve will pay for them to fly out there. And once they're done, they're good for the year. So if they have 12 years left to do, they can do their 12 years, do their 39 days per year, and then still end up with a retirement at 60.
Man, that's cool. So it's almost like, the Air Force is working with you in a way. You decide you want to do something different, but still be involved. Completely possible.
Absolutely, it's the best of both worlds. If you don't want to serve full time anymore, and you want to go to school part time, the Air Force Reserve and the Air National Guard offer you that opportunity. Like I said, I have the positions in PAC Avenue, USAFE. Air National Guard has it in the U.S. territories. We both have positions in Guam and, say, Hawaii. They have positions in Puerto Rico. So, people that are from Puerto Rico that want to move home and serve, you have the ability to do that, or the U.S. Virgin Islands. You get to wear the uniform. You get all the same benefits. You get to use, the gym, the commissary, the BX. You can still hop, use the PAX terminals to go to those different places you want to go to, get education benefits. It truly is, they're great programs if you're deciding, at this time maybe full-time active duty is not for you.
Wow. I've actually known two people from Puerto Rico since I've been in active duty, so it does happen.
It does happen, absolutely.
And speaking of Palace Front, or changing your role, I guess you would say, in the Air Force, if you're moving to the Air National Guard or to the Air Force Reserve, can you retrain? And if you can, how does that happen?
Absolutely, you can retrain. That's a good question. So if you want to retrain, first thing you do is you get with your recruiter. We pull up your ASVAB scores. We do your physical requirements, your vision. Are you colorblind, not colorblind? Can you see distance, acuity? Can you see? That's also a good one. And then you tell us, exactly what you want to do. So we see if you meet those physical requirements, if you have the education requirements as far as like ASVAB, things that they're looking for. And then you tell us where you want to go. So you hold the key to where you want to go and what you want to do. So if you meet those requirements and you tell me, you know what, I always wanted to be a dental technician. It's been my lifelong dream. I'm going to go to dental hygienist school when I get out. I want to go to Miami. I look at Miami. If you meet those requirements, we set you up with a unit that's in Miami. So it's a pretty easy process. You just have to meet those requirements, and we make sure that position is there, and either service can help you do that.
And from there, you're good to go.
From there, you're good to go. You go to tech school. It's no different. What happens a little bit different is, you're a civilian. 28 days normally out of the month, except for February, obviously.
Right.
And you have an educational person that sits down with you and says, hey, listen, we have Air Force active duty, because you guys control the school, says, hey, we have 3 schools this year. Which one would you like to go to? Airman so-and-so or Sergeant so-and-so, and you choose, because this is based on you being a civilian most of the year. So it's a little more choice and a little more opportunity for you. And like I said, you control your destiny. You're going to pick where you want to go and what you want to do.
Did you retrain, Sergeant Dahl, or have you been the same career for the whole?
This is my 3rd AFSC. So yes, I absolutely have retrained. I was fortunate enough to be a 4N. I did 4N active duty. I got out and I did the 4N for the reserve for a while. And then I cross-trained into wing safety. I did wing safety for about 3 years, and then I got the opportunity. I saw a briefing about being a recruiter, and I thought, that sounds like a good idea. Let me try that out. And I've been a recruiter for 6 years. So I've been all over the place. I've done several different kinds of recruiting, and I enjoy it. It's a great career field. I've had a great time.
That's extra. And has the process during your retrainings been straightforward, pretty cool to navigate?
Absolutely. When I'd say 4N was great for me. I was doing paramedic stuff on the outside, but I thought, I don't want to do this on the inside and the outside. I talked to the wing safety guys. They enjoyed their job. I researched what they did, and I thought, let me ask for an interview. I asked for an interview on one weekend when I was working my weekend warrior duty. The following month, they interviewed me. The following month, I transitioned. And 4 months later, I chose my tech school and went.
So here we go. We are about to go to a radio break, but y'all, the Air National Guard, the Air Force Reserve, sounds like they have lots of great programs set up to work with you, get you set up, and have things moving in a positive, easy manner that's geared toward making sure things work out well.
Absolutely.
So join us. We're going to come right back after a break and a song. We got Paramore, Ain't It Fun, their newest jam coming up. Keep it locked right here. It's Jones in the Afternoon. Some opportunities that are offered through the Air National Guard and the Air Force Reserve. So, Sergeant Dahl, how things still going well?
Things are going great.
We're talking about the 90s and pre-90s here in the studio. Things people might not even remember now, but definitely happened. We've kind of been dancing around the topic a little bit, but there are, of course, there are medical and educational benefits along with the Air National Guard and the Reserve. You care to elaborate on what those are a little bit?
Absolutely. For the medical and dental benefits, that's a big thing right now. The Affordable Care Act kicked in as of 1 March. People, if you separate from active duty, you have to provide medical care for your family. Medical care is expensive. No matter how you slice it or dice it, even with the Affordable Care Act, medical care is expensive. Biggest thing to do is to research it. Before you decide to get out, go to your state websites, look at how much it's going to be. Normal single person with no issues, never had any broken bones, things like that, or pre-existing conditions, maybe $150 to $300. With a family, one family member, about $500. More than that, you're looking at close to $1,000. We're not including deductibles, we're not including catastrophic caps, things that nobody really knows about because normally we join active duty at a very young age and we're on our parents' medical insurance. It's not something we think about, or we go without medical insurance when you're in your 20s because we're invincible at that age. So for the Air Force Reserve and the Air National Guard, for a single person, it's about $53.22, somewhere around that range. For one family member, if you have dependents, or 5 family members, how many people you have in your family, it's $224. That covers your entire family for a month, or yourself if you're single, the $53 for that month. Each month you pay this. You no longer go to a base facility because not everybody lives by a base when they separate.
Right.
You get a civilian provider in that TRICARE network. There are small deductibles, usually 10%. So like if you have a child, you have a well baby visit, which by yourself may be $150. It's usually $10 for the Air Force Reserve and the Air National Guard. Prescriptions are covered. Another good example is dental. Dental's $12. You're not going to find dental insurance anywhere for $12. And we're talking expensive dentists. I had a cosmetic dentist when I was a reservist. Can't see my nice smile, but thank goodness for him.
Wow, that's $12 a month?
$12 a month, and for your family, it's $24 a month. With that, you get 2 free cleanings a year. I mean, there's stuff on the website you can look at, but you're not going to beat those prices. So it's important for people who are thinking about transitioning, do your homework on medical care. Find out exactly how expensive it is. Find out where we rate, even your companies. Things like catastrophic caps, they have for other insurance companies. They may offer it. For example, if somebody has a pre-existing condition in your family, if they get medical insurance through a different company, and say something bad happens, somebody gets cancer in the family. That happens from time to time, even to young people. And your insurance will cover, say, $30,000. $30,000 is the drop in the bucket if it's for chemo treatment or radiation. For the Air Force Reserve and the Air National Guard, if you pay anything up to $1,000, that's including any of your deductibles, we'll cover everything else. So that's really unheard of. Right, we're here to take care of our airmen, and that's airmen with a capital A, all airmen. including officers, to the lowest airmen. That medical insurance is meant to be there for them, to make it sure it's still affordable. Now, education benefits. For the Air Force Reserve, we have 100% tuition assistance, just like active duty.
Okay.
So that doesn't change for us. For the Air National Guard, it's state to state. Some states you can use the tuition assistance and the Montgomery GI Bill together. In other states, you can sometimes use a Post 911. Post 911 is there for everybody if you decide to use it. You guys should have to decide in which state you're in, which one is more beneficial. We also, for the reserve, offer an additional GI Bill behind your active duty one if you exhaust it. So most colleges, after 3 years, if you do 3 full years of school, you usually run out of your GI Bill. So it's important to look into those educational benefits. If you're not using TI and active duty while you're going to school, you should be.
Bottom line.
Absolutely.
Are there, this is almost like a personal, just something I noticed you said about the Post 911 GI Bill and the Montgomery. Are there situations, or this may be too complex to go into right now, but where depending on state, it would be more advantageous to use one over the other?
Absolutely. So if you're living someplace like California and you're living in San Diego, your BAH is going to be really high, like $2,000 some odd dollars. If you move someplace, say, I don't know, South Carolina, and I'm not sure about their economic living situation, but it may be a little bit lower than living in California. I'd say New York and California, Post 911, definitely, if you live in New York City. You're going to live someplace a little more rural. It may be more advantageous to use your GI Bill and maybe use TA because you're going to make a little bit more money. You're not going to make that money on BAH. Okay. So it just depends. You really need to research, find out what your zip code is. You can go and plug all those things in the portal and find out exactly what the BAH rate is.
And what you're getting into ahead of time before you.
Absolutely. Not all schools cost the same. It's separating from the Air Force is a big deal. People don't, really think about it at the time. But when you get ready to separate, you're not offered those options. You really need to do your homework because there's so many choices to make. We just talked about a few. Education. Where am I going to go to school? How much is it going to cost? How much money am I going to make doing it? Most people don't realize, you may get BAH, and they think they're going to, I'm going to live at home with this BAH, and I don't have to do anything. I can get a part-time job. Bills are expensive. We're very fortunate being active duty. You're very fortunate to have all the things that we have, and our stuff is paid for. You're not going to go broke or homeless being active duty, but when you're out in the real world, apartments are expensive. There's lights, bills, electricity, all those things go into it, and usually the BAH is not always going to cover that. So that's where the Air Force Reserve and the Air National Guard come in to offer you a little bit of extra money. Make sure you can use things like the gym on base. This doesn't have to be an Air Force base. You can still use a commissary, the BX, the auto hobby shop, things we take for granted that you don't get to do once you're on the outside unless you're part of that service.
Right. And I'd say just from what you're saying, one of the most important things to do beforehand is know what you're trying to do before you start, getting out or heading in that direction.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest things I tell people come in my office. Listen, if you're on the fence about getting out, maybe staying in is the best thing for you. Unless you have a concrete plan, like, hey, I've already talked to this college, or I already have a job lined up. I know what I'm doing. I've already researched the medical. I know how much this job is going to pay me. If you don't have that straight solution, you don't have that avenue, that pathway, just getting out is not a solution. Right now, the climate for active duty is once you're out, you're out. You're not coming back in. And I know myself and Sergeant Murray have talked to several people over the last couple of years. We've both been recruiters for a little bit of time. Where people, we say this to them all the time, don't get out unless you have a plan. And they get out and they have no plan, and then nobody gets out and gets a contracting job right away. No one makes, it's very few people, it's rare, even with an education, with a bachelor's degree, you're going to get out and make $70,000. It just doesn't really happen. Everybody hears that story. It's a unicorn. Sometimes it does. Most of the time it doesn't. So, and they try and come back in. We're just not, if we're putting people out right now, people that are still valuable to the Air Force, and we're losing people, we're not going to let somebody back in that just made a choice to get out. It just doesn't happen. So having a plan, right now, we're in that climate where you need to have a plan. You need to be thinking ahead. You need to know where you want to go to school. Where are you going to live? What is your future plan? What are you going to do for money? Do your finances. I know the Air Force, Air Force Family Readiness has financial planning there. Sit down with the financial planner and find out how much you spend at Starbucks during the week. How much do you eat out? Oh, man, where does all your money go?
Just as an add-on to that, that's a harrowing experiment for anyone who hasn't done it. The Starbucks calculator, well, that's what I call it. You go, all right, how much money do I spend on Starbucks? Make sure you have like a cup of water nearby because you might get it can upset you. But anyways, I was just saying that.
No, that's a true statement. When I first got out, I didn't realize how much money I spent on non-necessity items. You just don't realize we don't really add up. Even if you think you do a good budget, when you don't have that full-time paycheck every 2 weeks, you need to have a plan because that may not come. This is guaranteed for us that 2 paychecks every 2 weeks. On the outside, that may not be. You may only get paid once a month. What do you do when, if you don't have a good budget in place? Being paid once a month, you're hungry. You're eating top ramen. You know, if you're in the Air Force Reserve or the Air National Guard, you know that you have the ability to have at least that little small paycheck coming in. You know, an E4 makes about $292 a month for just 2 days. Now, some units will allow you to work more or less. It's voluntary on your part. I know myself when I was going to college, my unit had money when I was at McCord, so I would go and volunteer. I'd be like, hey, could I work this week? There's somebody there during the week. Can I come in and work? They needed the people, so I had the ability to do that. Now
that's cool.
Yeah, it's not offered to everybody, but you know, there's training experiences. If you cross-train, you're going to go to tech school. There's a lot of volunteer opportunities, so there is ways to, you know, sometimes help out and assist with the living situation, so you're not just eating top ramen and living off of Kool-Aid. They're out there.
Kool-Aid, you know, it's not really that good for you.
Kool-Aid is not good for you. It's on that one that says you should drink very little of.
If any.
If any, I agree. That red dye, number 9, not good for you.
No, yellow 40 either, whatever it is. So, man, there's definitely a lot to go into this decision-making process that I'm fairly sure a lot of people out here haven't really thought about or just weren't aware of. As far as, you know, I'm facing this is what I really need to start considering before going that direction.
Absolutely, and I know that we'll probably get into retirements in a little bit later, but
Sure.
We'll break that down. It is, and I know Sergeant Murray and myself are very honest about people's opportunities and what's coming forward for them, and we discuss realistic options. It's really knowing that, hey, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to go, and we help you formulate a plan and give you what you want.
And speaking of such, that's a good point to take a break. We can actually come back